help heart health. I find like 100 studies. There's so much that's been done on the heart. And a lot of that is because it's the thing that's killing more people right now than any other disease in our nation. And how many people have ever went to my cancer killer talk that I did in, yeah, okay, so a lot of you guys. So when we look at cancer, you know, Richard Nixon declared a war on cancer way back in the 70s. We were losing about 1 in 200 people to cancer in the 70s. Now, fast forward to today, and we lose 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women to cancer. So in all that time, we've been able to create the internet. I'm on a Google Hangout today for the first time. This is totally new stuff for me. We can get access our friends. We can Skype. I have a friend who lives in Australia. I can Skype my friend in Australia from my cell phone. There's so much that we've been able to accomplish in that time period, yet we can't cure cancer. Like, it's crazy. Like, why can't we cure cancer? So it's the same thing with heart disease. I'm going to tell you some statistics tonight. I'm going to share with you some things on cholesterol that are going to, and fat, that are going to totally have your mind in circles. I'm just going to be honest and tell you that right now. And a lot of you are going to be like, that's not what my medical doctor said. That's not the way it's supposed to be. But what I want you to do is stop and think, are we getting any better in our country at preventing heart disease? No, we've got, I mean, we're 1 out of 2 people are going to get heart disease. 1 out of 4 people are on statins, and now they want to put half of people over 45 on statins. So we don't have a solution to this. So I think that tonight you're going to see really clearly what the solution is and how you can start to implement some steps. Here's the other thing you got to know: the solutions are not taking a pill. It's much easier. We all have really busy lifestyles. It is much easier for me to zoom on through my life and have my doctor give me a pill, and all I have to do is wake up in the morning to take that pill, and my problem's gone. That's really easy, but that's not curing the problem. So I want to give you concrete things that you can start to look at, and I really want to test your paradigm on how you look at the heart and how you look at cholesterol. So if I push buttons, know that it's just that we've been taught something that is, and I'm going to show you some videos that I hope will get my point across. What we've been taught about fat, what we've been taught about cholesterol is not completely accurate. It is not the whole story. So I want to give you some other pieces of it so that you guys can start to implement this different. Make sense? Yes. Okay. And again, I always think if you leave here with more questions than you came with, then I did my job right. So know that if you're at the end of this, you're like, but what about this, and what about this, and what about this? Awesome. Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep learning about it. But if you leave and you're like, I know everything, then I didn't do my job right. I hope to like open Pandora's box tonight. So to start with, let me get all my stuff out of here. The first thing that you have to know is that my clicker doesn't work. Okay. Is that right now, heart disease is the #1 killer in America. So, and it's funny because as I started talking to people over the last couple of weeks about this, the fastest growing population in our country that are getting heart attacks are women between 37 and 47. So this is not an old person's disease anymore. This is definitely not that. So part of why we are addressing this issue this month in Maximize Living and in our office is that so many people are dying from heart attacks. Okay? When you start to put this into perspective, 1 out of every 4 people right now are dying from heart disease. 1 out of 4 in our country, which is crazy. I'm a statistic person, but I can't shove all the statistics in my head, so I'm going to just read a couple of these to you. Every year, 720,000 people have a heart attack. Okay, just to give you a perspective, on 9/11, we lost 2,700 people on that one day. Okay, so we are almost having a 9/11, almost a little shy of that, a 9/11 every single year with people in heart attacks. And it's costing our healthcare system $108 billion to treat heart disease, which is, you know, when people go, anybody had their premiums go up on them recently on their health insurance? So let me tell you a little something about premiums that's really the ugly truth, is that your premium doesn't go up because of you or what you're personally doing. And they'll tell you, oh, it went up because you have this condition or you're this age. Your premiums go up because there are other people that aren't taking care of their health, and they're getting stuck in the healthcare system and having to use and having heart attacks and not taking care of themselves. So they have to find a way to manage that, so they raise everybody's premium to counterbalance that. So you'll hear me say this all the time. Health is not an individual sport. It's something we should do as a community. And so if you're one of those people that's like, well, I don't really care about my neighbor, whatever they do, they do. Well, you do care about your premiums on your health insurance. And one way to make your premiums go down is to help everybody else around you be healthy. So $108 billion a year. And I will, if you guys want this PowerPoint, just let Jessica or Dr. Carol know, and we'll forward it to you, because I know it's hard to see in the back all the different things that I've got here. So the scary part is that right now they're finding 25% of children in America under the age of 5 have plaque in their arteries, forming in their arteries. So last year they came out and they said, well, we're finding plaque in kids' arteries. We need to lower the level of cholesterol. So we need cholesterol. It used to be if you were over 200, they would look to put you on statin drugs. Now what they're saying is if it's at 150, you should be on statin drugs. So that's where it would put over half of the people over 45. And they're even saying now that, well, gosh, if kids are forming plaque at 5 years old, we need to put those kids on statin drugs. I am not joking. Like, this is not, statins is the biggest, and I'm going to show you some things on statins too, but it's the biggest misconception around health that I've ever seen. So 60% of kids between the age of 15 to 19 have plaque forming on their arteries, building up in their coronary artery. And recent research is now saying that 1/3 of children are at risk for high cholesterol. So what are we doing? If you go back and if you haven't heard me speak before, this will be new. If you have, you're probably going to hear me say this about 50 million times. But years and years and years ago, we decided that low fat was the problem. And I'm going to show you how we got to the place we're at right now. So the food industry went in and it pulled all the fat out of food. And immediately the sales of food went down. People were like, oh, this doesn't taste like it used to taste. And so people started eating whole food again. They started going, well, I'm going to cook it at home. I'm not going to have a TV dinner. I'm not going to have my box processed meal because it doesn't taste like it used to taste. So the food companies' profits started to be affected. So they were like, this is not going to work. And so they added sugar back into the food. And it just started climbing, and it was more sugar and more sugar and more sugar. So if you guys are sitting there, we're going to talk about sugar tonight. This is the part, sugar's the part that everybody hates, and this is where everybody wants to leave. But if sugar if you feel like you're addicted to sugar, on one level, I got to tell you, it's not your fault, because the food industry has slowly been upping the amount of sugar. And my favorite example of this is vitamin water. Anybody drink vitamin water or used to drink vitamin water? Okay, when I was in chiropractic school about 19 years ago, actually yesterday was my 19th anniversary of the day I graduated from chiropractic school. So 19 years ago, Whole Foods came up with vitamin water, or it was in Whole Foods, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's water, and it tastes like cucumber, or it tastes like lemon, but it has no sugar. This is amazing. And so all of a sudden, vitamin water started to take off, and people were buying it left and right. Well, guess what? Coca-Cola got a hold of it and said, hey, water's the new hot thing, and flavored water is even hotter. So let's buy vitamin water and we'll mass produce it. So they started to mass produce it, But what they found is that they could sell more if they added more sugar into it. So about 3 weeks ago, my daughter gets in the car with me. She had just been at her friend's house, and she comes in. She's got a vitamin water. I haven't looked at a vitamin water in a really long time. And she puts it down, and I said, "What's that?" She goes, "Oh, I just need to grab something." They had some water on the table at her friend's house, and they said, "Go ahead and grab a vitamin water." Now, my kid knows never, ever, ever drink a soda in front of me or a Frappuccino, or you're going to be walking behind the car. You will not be in the car. But what she doesn't know is that, and much to my dismay, even at that moment, was when I picked up the vitamin water, 35 grams of sugar in that vitamin water. In vitamin water. So when we start to uncover this stuff, that is exactly why people are getting more and more heart disease. My medical doctor says, get on this drug, stay off the fat, drink more water. Okay, I'm just using that as an example. So I go in and I drink more water. I'm drinking vitamin water, but nobody's mentioned about what sugar does and the effects. So if you haven't heard me before, one of my top things is you've got to read labels. You've got to read labels. And the other thing to know is that everything you learn in here, I want you teaching your kids, and I want you teaching your grandkids, because they're growing up in an age where we have more sugar, we have more processed foods, we have more chemicals. We have to learn it ourselves enough that we can turn around and start to teach our kids, because they're just getting bombarded with it. So, okay. So number one, who gets my emails, just out of curiosity? Okay, did you guys see the one I did today on the most important question? Okay, so one of the biggest concepts that we teach in chiropractic, and I think it's a concept that you can apply to every single health question that you'll ever have from this point forward, is that your body has an amazing intelligence inside of it. You have a healing capability like none other. Your brain, all the time, is trying to heal you. It's trying to find bacteria in your body that's going to be harmful. I'll give you an example of that. My husband got food poisoning this weekend. So Saturday night, 6 o'clock, he was totally fine. Saturday night, 10 o'clock, till the next morning, he was puking. So that, as annoying as it was for all of us, was innate intelligence at work. His body, the brain identified that there was a bacteria there, and it said, this is not good. This is going to harm me. And it caused a reaction to throw it up. Okay? Same thing now. I had a patient this morning who delivered a 5-week-old preemie baby, and she had an infection, and her fever started going up. And so it got up to about 103, and her body, 5 weeks early, started to go into labor to get the baby out. Pretty cool. That's innate intelligence. We're pre-designed to be healing. So the first thing that I'll tell you is that we look at everything. If you come to me and you say, oh, my neck hurts, the very first question I will always ask is, what is the body trying to tell me? If you come in, a lot of you are going to want to bring me your cholesterol, your labs after this. That's great. I'm all into deciphering with you. But if you bring me your labs, the first question I'm going to think is, why is the body doing this? If you get a cancer diagnosis, the two things I will think is, how do we get the cancer out that's been in there? And how do we get the cancer to stop growing? Why is the body doing this? So whatever the situation is I always think the most important question you can ever ask yourself is why? Why is my body telling me this? And the body talks to you I call it in whispers. It doesn't say like, hey, the liver's not working well down here, can you fix me? And it doesn't say, hey, we got cancer growing in the stomach, you better do something. What the body does is it whispers to you. And how it whispers to you is it says, yeah, you say, I don't have as much energy as I had before. And then that maybe happens one day, and then maybe 4 days later, you're like, I still don't have as much energy as I had before. And then the next week you get a cold, and you're like, God, my immune system seems really down. Those are all signs the body's talking to you. So when we look at cholesterol, Cholesterol is the body's amazing way of repairing itself. Cholesterol is how the body repairs itself. So if I walk into my doctor's office and my cholesterol is 250, and my doctor says, oh my God, you gotta get that cholesterol down, let's put you on a drug to bring it down. I don't look at it that way. I look at it and go, well, why is the body raising, it had to put cholesterol out there because there's something going on inside that's not right. Does that make sense? So I promise you, if I just shut down the talk right now, and we all left, and you all decided that from this point forward, you were gonna always ask yourself, any symptom you had, any problem you had ever in your body, and you always ask yourself, why is the body doing that? Why is the body giving me that? Any blood test, any x-ray, anything. I mean, I see on x-rays all day long. There is a profound reason why everybody's losing the curves in their neck. Because we're all walking around like this. So I could put the curve back, but if I don't help you figure out how to do this differently, it's gonna keep coming back. So we're constantly adapting. Your blood work is all that is an adaptation to whatever's going on in the body. So we gotta figure out why the body's doing that. Make sense? And it really is gonna come down to one thing. So, first thing you need to know, cholesterol is a really, really good thing, okay? You cannot make hormones, you cannot make vitamin D, you cannot make bile to break down fats, you cannot heal things in your body, you cannot nourish your brain without cholesterol. You have to have cholesterol. So when we go and we look at somebody's blood work and we look at the total cholesterol, that is an indication, well, let me back up one. Good cholesterol, if you're like at a 150, or how many people know they have good cholesterol? Okay, awesome. You want to keep that, obviously, because you got to have some cholesterol. But if all of a sudden my cholesterol shoots up to 150, the body's repairing itself, and who knows why it's doing that, but it's repairing itself, and I bring that level down, and I bring that level through drugs down to really low, like maybe I bring it down to 100, you now don't have enough cholesterol to do some of the things that your body needs, like make hormones. Hormones is a big one. And I gotta tell you, where so many people have hormone problems later on in life because they've been on cholesterol. Alzheimer's are now starting to link the falsely lowering cholesterol, and they're starting to show that it's affecting Alzheimer's because your brain really needs cholesterol to function normally. Make sense? Okay. Anybody want to leave yet? Okay. So the other thing you got to know is that it's not cholesterol that causes heart disease. It's the oxidation of cholesterol that causes heart disease. So what does that mean? If my body starts to secrete cholesterol, and I eat a trans fat with it, and I'm going to show you a video here in a second. I put a trans fat into my body. It's going to take that cholesterol and it's going to jam it up against the artery wall, and it's going to form a plaque. So that plaque is what's bad. So oxidizing cholesterol is bad. How you oxidize it is through trans fats. Okay, eating a lot of trans fats. Trans fats are canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, vegetable oil. There's no vegetable in vegetable oil, by the way. That will take your cholesterol and it'll and form it into a plaque. So you want to make sure that if you're one of these people that's really watching your cholesterol level, is that you're not causing the oxidation of cholesterol to happen. Okay. The other thing you need to know is that people have heart attacks with completely normal cholesterol. Okay, so there is not a one-to-one relationship here, and I'm going to explain to you why that happens. And so statin drugs, when they introduced statin drugs, they saw that the heart attacks doubled the decade after they introduced statin drugs. So if total cholesterol was the cause, then it would have solved it, because statin just lowers cholesterol. So it would have solved the problem, but it didn't. It just doubled it. So we're going to talk about statins in a little bit. So I want you to look at cholesterol as your body's way of repairing itself. That's what it does. So There was this guy way back in the 70s. His name was Ansel Keys. And he was, you can look him up on Wikipedia. He was a nutritionist and a biochemist. And he set out to research what was causing heart disease. And he had a hypothesis that it was diet, that there are certain things in the diet that cause heart disease. And so he went and he was supposed to look at 22 countries around the world and understand what every country was doing and how it was affecting their heart disease level or their heart attack rate. And he came back, and you'll see he kicked out about 12 of the different countries and decided to look at only about 7 or 8 of them, and I'll show you the exact number, and use those for his data. So you guys can watch this and see how this, how do I get this, Dr. Carroll?
We've only been farming and eating grain since about yesterday, which is when we became shorter and fatter. We only started consuming processed vegetable oils about 10 minutes ago, which is when heart disease became our #1 killer. So after examining all this human history, the experts came to the obvious conclusion. We need to eat a lot more of these. And so they convinced us that human health depends on foods we didn't eat for more than 99% of our entire existence. How did this happen? In the 1950s, a biochemist named Ansel Keys published a study that compared heart disease and fat consumption in a half-dozen countries. The more fat, the more heart disease. The trend line was unmistakable. Just one little problem. Keys left out countries where people eat a lot of fat but have very little heart disease, like Holland and Norway. He also left out countries where people don't eat much fat but do have a lot of heart disease, like Chile. In fact, Keys had reliable data from 22 countries, and the results were all over the place. But you can't make a big splash in the scientific community with a trend line that looks like this. So Keys did what any dedicated researcher would do. He threw out the data that didn't fit and published his results. His punishment for this bit of scientific chicanery was to get his picture on the cover of Time magazine. Keys became known as the father of the lipid hypothesis, which says that eating saturated fat raises the cholesterol in your blood, and high cholesterol in your blood clogs your arteries and causes heart disease.
The hypothesis that when you eat high fat, that produces high cholesterol, and then cholesterol produces heart disease, is wrong in every one of those links.
This whole idea that dietary fat causes cholesterol problems is sort of a myth. The whole idea that cholesterol problems lead to heart disease is a myth.
The theory is completely and totally wrong. It was a theory that was made out of whole cloth and then pushed.
The term artery clogging saturated fat, it's as though it's all one word.
It's become part of the zeitgeist. Everybody knows saturated fat is bad for you, but when you get back and you start looking at the medical literature and you root back through to find out where this whole idea came from, it's bogus.
So, has anybody heard of Ansel Keys before? Just out of curiosity. Oh, you'll Google him, he's all over the place. So, here's something you have to know about me. I am not a conspiracy theory kind of person. I like to believe in the good of people. I don't like to believe that people are out there to make money and hurt us. I just don't feel that in my heart. But if you put a whole population of people on a drug that they have to be on for the rest of their life, and you get going about 10 years down the road, and it's highly profitable, and now you see that maybe that theory wasn't right. It takes a lot of kahunas to turn that around, and a lot of education to start to turn that around. That's part of when I saw that. It's like, well, and I've heard this from people over the last week, is some of you have told me that your medical doctors are like, no, this is the way it has to be done. And some of you have told me, my medical doctor said, don't get on statins. Whatever you do, don't get on statins. The stuff is horrible. So one woman that is doing a ton of research right now, and I really recommend you look up her online. Her name is Dr. Stephanie Seneff. And I will put through my email tomorrow a 30-minute interview with her. If we had the time to do it, I would play it tonight. She is, what you need to know about Stephanie Seneff is that it's Seneff. She got her undergraduate degree from MIT in biochemistry and nutrition. She got well, I guess she finally got her PhD at MIT in biochemistry. And she has been studying statins for the last 10 years. She is what they call a sulfate expert. She is one of the leading scientists at MIT. This is not a woman that has, that just came out of like the medical school of the Bahamas. Like, she has some legitimate. So she has been studying statins and is saying that when you look at when statins were introduced, this is an exact quote from her, from 1980 to 1990, the incidence of heart failure doubled. So we introduced statins and we got more heart failure. So she also is a big proponent of genetically modified food. We're going to talk about wheat here in a little bit, but look her up and look at her research. She is now linking statin use to Alzheimer's, which is also on the rise. So, and think about Alzheimer's for a minute. If my body raises the cholesterol level because I'm under some kind of stress, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. I'm not just going to freak you out. I'm going to give you some hardcore facts of what to do. I raise my cholesterol levels. My body's under stress. And then I take a statin drug that falsely lowers it. So now I've lowered all the cholesterol in my body, but my brain needs nourishment. My brain needs fat. It needs that up there to function right. So now I'm on that for 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years. I don't have enough fat in my brain. My brain is going to be more susceptible to toxins, which is one theory that they've got going with Alzheimer's. Now, fast forward, I don't know if this went through your Facebook newsfeed, but there was a ton of articles coming out of Australia right now that is showing that Alzheimer's is a function of the brain not being able to detoxify itself. So the toxins are accumulating, it's not able to detoxify itself. And so when they are now looking at a therapy where when they put ultrasonic waves into the brain, it can knock some of these toxins free and people are starting to get their memory back. Well, the only reason that you would accumulate toxins is A, you're accumulating in your diet, and B, you didn't have enough fat to nourish it and get it out. So I just want to give you a clear, bigger picture than just high cholesterol being the problem. So check out Dr. Stephanie Seneff. So she also said that and she's not just her, but a lot of other people are saying that cholesterol is causing liver damage, and I'm going to show you that here in a moment. Muscle wasting, it affects the muscle, how strong your muscles are. It is leading to depression. So there's a long list, and they did a research study on 114 patients and who started taking cholesterol-lowering drugs, and they found that 36% of those people had an increase in death. So I'm just sprinkling some stats there. If you guys are like, I'm on statins, that's crazy, I don't want to be, I don't know if I believe you, go and do your research. What I would ask is that you go and you talk to your doctor and you have these kind of questions with your doctor. I really strongly feel there needs to be a more educated discussion than them just writing a prescription pad and handing it to you. So one thing that we know, the other crazy part of this is that if you look at your total cholesterol, 80% of your cholesterol is made in your liver. Only 20% of it comes from your diet. So when you force it low, then that all of a sudden starts to affect other things that the liver does. So one of the studies that they're showing right now is that it blocks, and I won't read this whole biochemistry thing to you, but one of the things that they're saying is that it kills an enzyme in the body, in the liver, that makes cholesterol, but that enzyme also makes CoQ10. And CoQ10 is the master antioxidant of our body. And it goes and it grabs a bunch of free radicals and it gets it out of our body. And they're showing a correlation between people who have low CoQ10 levels and cancer. That's a new emerging, tons of research that's starting to be done on that. They're also showing that CoQ10 affects, if you have a deficiency in CoQ10, it affects your memory, it accelerates your aging. So type in CoQ10 and anti-aging, and you'll see there's a ton of information out there right now about how if you don't have enough CoQ10, it will accelerate your aging process, it will accelerate wrinkles, it'll affect your memory, it affects how your heart functions, and it can cause fatigue. So we've gone through this process of forcing these down, and now we're ending up with other problems. Make sense? Okay, so we are strong believers. I'm not going to go too deep into CoQ10 supplementation, but I've been doing this now for 19 years, and I strongly believe that your body should tell me what kind of nutrients you need. So if you recently came into our office, like in the last 4 weeks, all of our new patients that have come in, we are now testing. We're doing what we call biomarker testing, where we will test your CoQ10 level, because I strongly believe that it'll also test your B levels, and will test how your liver's detoxifying, because just like your x-ray tells me what to do, I believe that your body should tell me what to do as far as supplementation. I've been doing these biomarker tests now for about 1.5 years. We've probably run 50 people through it in my office, and every single person has showed up low, with the exception of kids, has showed up low in CoQ10. It is like the master antioxidant that everybody needs, and it will help your body perform in so many different levels if you get it raised inside the blood. So should you lower your cholesterol? Now, I gave you guys a checklist that explains what some better numbers to look at are. So if total cholesterol doesn't tell you the right, what if you're prone to a heart attack or not, what we want to look at is 3 different things. We want to look at your HDL to your total cholesterol level, that ratio. So everybody probably knows by now that HDL are the good. That's the good cholesterol. To make this really simple, LDLs are rushed to the scene. You have some kind of trauma. I'm going to explain to you that trauma. Your LDLs rush to the scene. They try to fix the trauma, and HDLs take the bad stuff from the scene and the plaque and things like that, and they bring it back and filter it through the body. So you want a lot of people cleaning up the scene and less people going to the scene, which is why they look at your LDL and HDL. But a better predictor is your HDL to your total cholesterol ratio. If it's above 24%, then you have an increased chance of having a heart attack. So if you have a total cholesterol blood reading at home, go home and look at this, and you're going to have to do your own measurement on it. So yeah, Terry.
And if you're on statins, you do the same ratio.
Yeah, you can do the same ratio. And then we're going to talk about how you try to get off some of those statins. That's a personal journey, but we got to remove some of the things that are causing cholesterol to raise. Yeah. You want to be, it should be above 24%. Yeah, exactly. It should be above 24. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks for catching me, Steve. Okay, and then you want your triglyceride to HDL level to be below 2. So when you make that calculation, it'll make sense. Right now, these are just numbers. And the new and emerging one, and there's a typo on here that I want you all to change. The new and emerging number to look at is what they call an LDL particle. LDL particle is what carries the LDL cholesterol in your blood. And you can, your medical doctor most likely isn't testing this yet, although it's becoming more popular. You want to get what they call an NMR lipid profile test. And an NMR lipid profile test, ask your doctor to do it. And you want your number to be around 1,000, and it should definitely be less than 1,300.
So not 2,000.
Yeah, not 2,000, that's a typo. So they are now saying that this is the most scientific way to see if you are prone to a heart attack or not. It needs to be around 1,000, but absolutely less than 1,300. It's called an LDL particle test.
Is it in?
Oh, the total profile test is called NMR, lipid profile test. No, I wrote it, you're right, I wrote it in on mine, so you guys have to write it on yours. So I want you to look at the ratios. I don't want you to look at the actual number of HDLs to LDLs, because that is not helpful. We want to look at the HDL to total cholesterol ratio should be above 24%. That makes the percentage ratio that should be there. So I'd have to do the math. I'd have to look and do the math. So I should take somebody's blood. 48? Okay, 48. There you go. Yes, great. There you go. There you go. Did you catch that, Leanne? Above 48. Okay, great. What else can I tell you on that? So I want you all to go back and look at your cholesterol test, and I want you to do the math on this. Figure this stuff out. I want you to ask your medical doctor to do the NMR lipid profile test. I want you to obsess on your lipid, the lipid LDL particle, because that's more of an indicator of heart disease. And that's some of the newest stuff that's coming out there. If you type in, if you want more information on this, type in LDL particle, and you'll see a ton of studies again all over the internet on LDL particles. Make sense? The other thing that they're showing is that your vitamin D levels will affect your cholesterol. So how many people have had a vitamin D test? Yeah, awesome. So you want your vitamin D to be between 30 and 60 nanograms or parts per milliliter. So if you get that test, just hold on to this or come bring it to me, but we want your vitamin D levels within that. If your vitamin D goes down, your cholesterol is going to go up. Those are going to work inversely. So one of the tricks that they're now, I passed out an article on vitamin D that you guys can read, but they're now showing that if you raise your vitamin D through either sunlight or through vitamins, actually taking a vitamin, that you'll see your cholesterol going down. So cholesterol, one of the other reasons they feel cholesterol has gone up is because we are a sun blocking obsessed country now. We're all putting sunscreen on us. We're putting hats on it. One reason they're believing that women are more prone to heart disease right now is because women tend to put more hats on, cover themselves up more, and so we're not producing enough vitamin D. So, and vitamin D, in my opinion, is like the cure-all vitamin out there. So you want to know what your vitamin D levels are. I'm working on finding a really inexpensive way to get it done in here so that you guys can do like a home test or a pinprick, something that we can do to measure those levels. Make sense? Okay, does that news anybody? Okay, I'm going to show you, let me see, okay, I want to show you, hold on a second, don't push it. So, this is all going to come and make sense when I talk to you about what is causing your cholesterol to raise, okay? But one of the things that you got to know is that when your cholesterol starts to go up because the body's under stress, and the stress is what we can just basically tie in a nice pretty bow called inflammation. So when your body starts to inflame, cholesterol goes up. And if I have a diet that's high in trans fat, you're going to hear in this video, the guy's going to refer to butter, and he's going to refer to, well, he refers to milkshakes, which is, there's nothing really great in a milkshake. But I'll talk a little bit about saturated fat. But when your inflammation goes up and you continue to eat foods that cause the inflammation to go up, you eat these trans fat, it turns that cholesterol into plaque and sticks it to the side of the artery. So you're going to see, and this is actually a pretty gross video, so if you get grossed out easily, I would recommend closing your eyes, or you can get up and walk around. But you're going to see what it actually looks like when you get this plaque buildup inside your arteries.
attacks, certain cancers, osteoporosis, diabetes. The major diseases of our society may be caused in part by what we eat. One of the physicians who helped me to understand why is Dr. Michael Clapper.
I first woke up, so to speak, when I was working on the anesthesia service, learning how to put people to sleep. And I was seeing my patients for the next day's surgery for coronary artery bypass surgery in order to bypass clogged arteries in their heart. Because it was late at night, I drew the man's blood test. And when I took the blood to the laboratory and had it processed, I couldn't believe my eyes. Now, normally, this liquid layer floating on top of the blood clot is quite transparent. It's yellow, but quite clear. You can see right through it. The blood in this patient's tube, however, was anything but clear. The serum floating on his clot was thick and greasy white. It looked like glue. In fact, it stuck to the sides of the blood tube when I shook the tube. I went back to the patient. I said, Mr. Phillips, did you eat before you came to the hospital tonight? He said, yes. I said, what did you have? He said, I had a cheeseburger and a milkshake. And when he said that, I realized that what I was looking at in his tube was all the fat in the beef burger, all the butter fat in the cheese, and the butter fat in the ice cream and in the milkshake. And all this fat had oozed out into his blood and actually turned his blood fatty. The next morning, we took Mr. Phillips to the operating room, and I put him to sleep, and the surgeon opened up his chest. And from these arteries, he began pulling out yellow, greasy deposits of fatty material called atherosclerosis.
This is a beautiful example of what atherosclerosis looks like. There it is. And I'm going to just gently tug on this now.
I love it.
It's a little hard to pull up. That's cool, Pot. If you could give it a pull too. We'll see if we can get this thing out.
We are just holding our breath so that you will finish the test.
There it is. America's #1 killer right there before your eyes.
So part of why I show you that, our internet connection's a little funky, but everybody gets motivated a little differently by different things. But you know, the bottom line of how you form that stuff in your arteries is that it's coming from trans fats. We just talked about. I mean, you can really just simplify trans fats into canola oil, vegetable oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. All of those oils, which you're going to find is the majority of things are cooked in. If you even go out to eat, they're cooked in the foods when you go out to eat. You combine those fats with sugar. And so what the guy said is he had a cheeseburger and he had a milkshake. So that's obviously this man's everyday kind of diet. But when you combine those two things together, you form those plaques on the wall. So yeah, that.
So when you look at the label, say trans fat?
No, it won't. Great question. No, it typically won't. You got to read the ingredients. So what I recommend is when you pick up a label, there are two things you're going to look at. You're going to look at the sugar content, and you want your sugar content to be below 25 grams a day. That's the Heart Association says max 25 grams, max. And you want to look at the ingredients. Nothing else on that label is of use to you, as if you want to keep yourself healthy. A calorie is not a calorie. A calorie from a hamburger is not the same as a calorie from fruit. I don't. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't believe so. I'm sure some will, but labeling is really messed up in our country too. So yeah, I don't believe so. So yeah. Everything. Yeah.
I was buying acai cheese in the food. This weekend, of course, we had like the organic one.
Right.
I was eating into granola.
Yeah.
I couldn't find one single granola that didn't have like total sugar and canola oil.
Right.
I was shocked that they actually put canola oil in granola.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I didn't use oil in the granola.
Right. No, canola oil is in everything. I think it's a cheap oil. It's easy to produce, maybe, but I've been waiting and hoping for some trend to change. I do know that my husband and I were at Whole Foods this weekend, and we found a bag of potato chips with avocado oil, and it said it right across the front. So I'm hoping that avocado oil is fantastic. Coconut oil is fantastic. Butter is actually fantastic. These three things, if you do organic butter, these do not cause what you saw there. What causes what you saw there was those oils and a high sugar diet. So if you're on a statin drug and you believe that you are safe because your cholesterol level is showing that it's normal, but you're eating those two things, you are not safe. You are not safe. You can still be building plaque, which is why Dr. Stephanie Seneff can say, hey, we introduced statins, but we didn't do anything good with it. Nothing happened from it. Does that make sense? Okay, try to keep this as simple for you guys as possible. Yeah. Okay, olive oil is that what you mean? Olive oil? Olive oil is fantastic. You don't want to cook it. If you cook it, you turn it into a trans fat. So, yeah.
Also today I was reading about how these other oils added to make.
Yeah.
If you just read what they do to make them, you'd never use them.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, canola oil, and a lot of you guys have heard me say this before, how they came up with canola oil is it stands for Canadian oil. It's a synthetic oil they get from Canada. They got it years ago, and they gave it the name of canola oil. So it's not even coming from a plant. It's not even coming, it's all synthetic, completely synthetic. I'm gonna show you a video here in a little bit, and you'll see I'm a visual learner. I gotta see things, and when I was in chiropractic school, I used to draw everything out because that's how I could get into my brain. And I'm going to show you how you're a visual learner too. That's how I'm going to show you how the cholesterol floating in your bloodstream is not the problem. It's the cholesterol floating in your bloodstream that gets oxidized with the trans fat and forms a plaque on the side of the wall of the artery. That's the problem. That's what you need to look out for. Because that's what that guy pulled out of there was that trans fat that it got oxidized with. Make sense? We do avocado oil, we do coconut oil, and we do butter. Those are the three things we do in my house. Walnut oil's good. Yeah, I haven't heard. Yeah. Let me find out to heat. I'm not because I don't use it, but I know I think it's okay to heat. But let me find out for you. Rice bran oil. Where do you get rice bran oil? I'll find out for you. Grapeseed's good. Yeah, grapeseed's good. I'll find out for you, Terry.
How do you get rid of the plaque?
Okay, great question. So awesome. Okay, so a couple of things to know is that our bodies are amazing and they repair. So stop eating the trans fats, stop eating the sugar. We're gonna talk about sugar here in a second, and start eating fiber. Start working out so you can push some blood through there. Get the CoQ10 and the omega-3 fish oils, vitamin D. All of those will help to start to remove some of that plaque and get it off of the wall. So
flaxseed oil also do that.
Flaxseed oil is also, I don't know if it'll remove the plaque, but it's a good oil for sure. It won't create plaque. And you're going to see as we go through over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you there's some foods you can be eating that will also do that. So great question. I like where you're going with it. So, okay, let's talk about blood pressure before I get into some real hard facts on what you guys can be doing. Okay, blood pressure is another one of these misread labels. So if I'm this guy and I'm getting chased, is that a hippo or rhino? Hippo, which I think is one of the most dangerous animals on the planet from what I understand. So I'm getting chased by him. As this guy's running, because his survival is at stake, all the blood is being shunted down to his legs and to his arms so that he can get away, and so his blood pressure is going up. Okay, we all agree on that? So now if fast forward 10 minutes from now, the hippo gets tired of chasing this guy, and he walks into his medical doctor's office, and his medical doctor takes his blood pressure and says, oh, you have high blood pressure, now we need to put you on a medication. Would you guys look at that story and say, well, yeah, that's what this guy needs to be on a medication? Or would you say maybe he needs to remove the thing that's chasing him? Okay, So that's what's happening. A big piece of what's happening with blood pressure is related to two things. Stress. If you are in chronic stress all the time, you are raising your blood pressure. And then you go in to the medical doctor's office, they say you have high blood pressure, now we need to lower it, but you don't change the stressor. You've now set up a really dangerous situation, because how is your body going to adapt to the stress? Does that make sense? It's just like cholesterol. If my cholesterol is going up because there's some problem, because cholesterol usually responds to inflammation. So I'm eating trans fats, I'm eating sugar, it raises my cholesterol. I go into my medical doctor's office, they say you have high cholesterol, and they go and they force my liver to lower it, but I don't change this. I now have a huge problem, because my body has adapted and I've basically told it to shut up, right? So it's the same thing I tell you guys all the time with pain. If you have pain, it's your body's way of telling the brain, there's something not right here, and I go and take a medication, the brain just doesn't hear it, and so eventually the body's gonna break down. Make sense? Okay, so you've got to start to look at stress as a key component. I have put on the heart health checklist, one of the things that number 8, is that you've got to stop stressing out. So if you have high blood pressure, you have to stop stressing out. It is killing you. You want to put something in perspective? I had a guy in here today, just about 5 o'clock today, and he said, oh, my back's really hurting. I just drove in the car for 22 hours. And I said, oh my God, what happened? And he's like, well, I had to go move my son from Portland. He was up in Portland in college, and I had to move him, or I had to go get him. And I said, oh, you couldn't put him on a plane? Like, why didn't you drove up to go get him? That's a dedicated dad. And he said, no, he's dropping out of college. He can't hang. It's not right for him anymore. And having a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, my mommy brain was like, oh my God, I would be so stressed out. If my kid dropped out of college, I'd have a lot to say about that. Like, I was going, and I said, wow, what a bummer. That's really harsh. Like, I'm sorry to hear that. He goes, no, come on, it's nothing to worry about. We'll find the right path for him. And he had this amazing attitude. So I think attitude is key, and you guys hear me say that a lot, is that you've got to stop stressing out, because if you are raising your blood pressure because you're so stressed and you're on medication think it's solving the problem, it's not going to solve the problem. So you got to look at stress. I'm a big fan recently of the 4-7-8 breathing. Has anybody tried this? Okay. Do you like it, Leanne? Yeah. Awesome. So what 4-7-8 breathing is, again, you can Google this. Andrew Weil is an MD, made it really popular. But when you're stressed, you have a neurotransmitter that just keeps speeding everything up and keeps your mind racing. Anybody ever had their mind race? And you have it race at like 2 in the morning, right? When there's nothing else. And you're like, you can't get it to stop. So there's actually, again, we're designed perfect. Our body knows that if you're under stress and I have a neurotransmitter that's causing my mind to race, then there sure better be a neurotransmitter that causes my brain to slow down. And there is. It's called GABA. And you can secrete GABA by doing 4-7-8 breathing. You basically put your tongue at the top of the roof of your mouth, and you inhale through your nose for a count of 4, and then you hold the breath for a count of 7. You probably know this, Terry. You do it. No, you're going in through both, and then you exhale for a count of 8. And they say you only have to do it 3 or 4 times, and you start secreting GABA, and you'll calm your mind down. It's great to do it 2 in the morning. I've done it in my driveway before I've gone into my house, knowing that my teenager was going to be in a rare mood. I've done it there, and it's been really helpful, because then I walk into the house and I'm grounded. My body is just in a better state. So really quick, easy. I highly recommend the 4-7-8 breathing. And then, I put on there meditation practice. You can talk to my parents here, teach meditation classes. Terry teaches a meditation class. She's even done one here in the office before. I am not a meditation expert. But either of those three can give you some ideas on meditation. But you got to do something to manage your stress if you've got, especially if your body's at a point where it's raising the blood pressure. It's that is usually, again, that's a warning sign. That is an absolute warning sign that the body is under some kind of breakdown. So are you going to solve that breakdown with medicine, or are you going to actually help the body and relieve the cause of it? So right now, if you walk into your medical doctor's office and you have high cholesterol and you have high blood pressure, the recommendation is to eat a healthy diet low in fat. They don't tell you which fat, they just say low in fat. They are going to tell you to low in saturated fat, cholesterol, and high in fruits and vegetables. That's fantastic. They're going to tell you to take a brisk walk 10 minutes a day, 3 times a day for 5 weeks, 5 days a week. That's pretty good. They're going to tell you not to smoke. And they're going to tell you to get on medication, and they're going to tell you to do it for life. So that has become our solution for heart problems, which is why it's not a good solution. It's not a detailed solution, which is why people are getting heart diseases going up and up and up. One thing I want to talk about, saturated fat. When you eat saturated fat, when you eat something high in cholesterol, like eggs were villainized or like years ago, right? Everybody was like, let's don't eat eggs, they're horrible, they're high in cholesterol. But guess what? When you eat something high in saturated fat and high in cholesterol, doesn't mean that there is no study that's ever been done that will cause your cholesterol to go up. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. You absolutely, I will say this over and over and again, you need saturated fat. You need the good fats. We are the most fat-deprived country. We need good fats. Start adding them back in, and then go get your blood test, and you'll see that there's no change. So, side effects of blood pressure medication. Anybody on blood pressure that's had a side effect? No, not bad? No? Did you get any side effects? No. No side effects? Monica? You have side effects from it? Yeah, what have you noticed? Yeah. Shortness of breath, yeah. So I'll tell you a story that happened to my husband years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in Australia visiting a friend, and he was home dealing with the kids. They were younger than they are now, probably at the peak of their difficultness. When when you have little ones, you can't move your eye one bit, and they're like into something. And I was gone for a week, and his stress level was going up as the week went on. And by the end of the week, he actually ended up in the emergency room. And when he went into the emergency room, and he's a really chill guy. If it wasn't that he couldn't handle it, he's the one that's actually usually home with the kids more than me. But the only thing they could find, he plays soccer 4 days a week. We eat impeccable. Like they were like, the minute they saw him, they're like, you've got a heart problem. There's something wrong with your heart. You're having like a mini heart attack. And the only thing they tested, cholesterol, everything was normal. The only thing they could find was that his blood pressure was high. And so I remember the day we were sitting in the medical doctor's office when I came back, and the medical doctor said, we just need to get you on blood pressure medication for the rest of your life, and you need to stop eating salt. Okay, now if anybody's ever sat down at a meal with me, salt is my next to fruits and vegetables, is my next favorite thing to have with my meal. I love salt. I cannot find enough wrong things to do with salt. That's a whole other discussion. But salt is not the cause of increased blood pressure, I promise you. So they go to put him on the medication. Now, here's the guy that's got a heart problem. He's on the medication, or they claim he has a heart problem. He's on the medication. He should be exercising more now than ever before. He should be more excited about his health than ever before. He was, for the first time, I've known him for over 20 years, he was lethargic. He had muscle aches and pains. He was cranky. He was depressed. He was like, this is a guy that would go off and play soccer 2-3 hours, no problem, never complains. And he could not literally get his soccer cleats on to get out and play, he didn't care. He actually didn't, he was like, I just don't feel like going. And that went on for about a month. And then I looked at him and I said, well, this is crazy. You're supposed to improve your heart, and you can't even you can't work out. A month's gone by and you can't work out. And so we took him off of that, and that was when I discovered that sugar was a big cause. We lowered his stress, and we took him off of grains, we took him off of sugar, his blood pressure went down, he got off the medication. So blood pressure medication, there again, like statins, there are a ton of side effects. So you want to try to do things that are going to pull you off of that. So you guys know in our office, we always recommend the 5 essentials. I'm not going to go into each one in detail, but know that when we look at these essentials, they are essentials. They're not they're not like a menu. Like, oh, I think I'll have a little max mind today. I think I'll do some 4-7-8 breathing tomorrow. And then on Saturday, I'll give up sugar on Saturday. And then maybe I'll go get it adjusted next month and make sure my nervous system. No, they're not that's not how they're meant to be. These are meant to be like a roadmap that says, I am here today. I've got maybe some problems that I want to work on, but I want to be healthier 10 years from now. So if you want to be healthier 10 years from now, you start doing all 5 essentials. And that's what we do here in our office is we customize those 5 essentials for you. We sit down and we make sure that you're doing them in the way that's going to keep moving you forward. If any of you guys that are my patients, if you're on blood pressure, you're on cholesterol medication, I want to know at your next appointment so we can customize a program so that maybe you don't get off of them tomorrow, but maybe a year from now, your body's strong enough that we can start to get them off of. And that's how you move yourself forward instead of just treading water and staying in the same place. So what causes cholesterol to go up? You've heard me say it before, the number one thing is sugar. So sugar is the number one cause of an increase in cholesterol. It causes inflammation, and grains are along that path as well. So sugar, grains, medications in general, anything toxic is going to cause your body to inflame. And when your body inflames, your brain says, oops, there's a problem here. I better get some cholesterol out into the blood to repair it. Okay, so that's the basic way I can explain how cholesterol goes up. What causes your blood pressure to go up? That's, we already mentioned that. That's stress, or I'm going to show you a phenomenal study. Has anybody ever heard that your atlas being out of alignment will cause your blood pressure to go up? Yeah, I'm going to show you. There's a study that was done that they showed that people lowered their blood pressure down significantly when they got their atlas adjusted, because this is your brainstem, and they did a really good job looking at that. So when, like I said, when you're eating grains, when you're eating things that are toxic, you're inflaming the nerve root. And I'm going to show you on here the hip return. On this video, you're going to see really clearly, because again, I'm a visual learner. I want you to see how it actually happens.
To understand how inflammation can cause heart disease, let's look at what cholesterol actually does. Cholesterol is one of the most important substances in your body. Without it, you'd be dead. Your brain and your nervous system are full of cholesterol. The walls of your cells depend on cholesterol. Nearly all of your hormones are made from cholesterol. This stuff is so important, almost every cell in your body can make its own cholesterol if it has to. The heart disease story we all know goes like this. If you have too much LDL or bad cholesterol, it builds up in your arteries and makes them narrow. But if you're lucky, HDL, or good cholesterol, gobbles it up and clears it away. It's a nice, simple story, and it's a load of baloney. For one thing, LDL and HDL are not cholesterol. They're proteins that carry cholesterol through your blood. LDL carries cholesterol from your liver to your tissues, and HDL carries old cholesterol back to your liver where it's recycled. If you want more HDL, the last thing you need is a low-fat diet.
What makes HDL go up? Fat in the diet. That's what raises HDL. So you increase the fat in your diet, and your HDL, deemed by even the most fervent anti-cholesterol person as the good cholesterol, HDL goes up.
That's right. In spite of what the experts told us, 27 different studies have shown that eating saturated fat raises your HDL. And despite its bad reputation, not all LDL is actually bad.
LDL comes in different size packages. They're little small, dense, BB-like packages, and they're big, round, fluffy, cotton ball-like packages, and the small, dense ones, it turns out, what's called the type B LDL, are the most harmful ones. And the big fluffy ones aren't particularly harmful at all.
Heart disease doesn't begin when your cholesterol goes up. It begins when your arteries become damaged or inflamed. LDL then does exactly what it's supposed to do. It brings in cholesterol to help the healing process. But if small LDL becomes damaged by oxidation, it can penetrate the wall of the artery. If the inflammation and oxidation continue, a plaque begins to form. Now you've got heart disease. So does a high-fat diet produce too much small LDL? Nope. Small LDL is the result of eating too many carbohydrates.
That's been shown in the medical literature probably a dozen times at least in papers that reducing carbohydrate in the diet shifts from a small dense pattern to a big fluffy pattern.
Having an LDL that's 120 or 130 or 100 or 145 doesn't matter as much as the kind of LDL that it is.
If the numbers alone don't mean very much, then why does high cholesterol get all the blame? Research consistently shows that smoking, elevated blood sugar, and emotional stress can cause inflammation, damage your arteries, and lead to heart disease. They also happen to raise your cholesterol. So by blaming cholesterol for causing heart disease, the experts relied on logic that makes about as much sense as this. In high crime areas, there are more calls to the police. Therefore, we can assume that calling the police produces an increase in crime. To get rid of crime, the answer is simple. Stop calling the police. But in spite of all the evidence that cholesterol is just an innocent bystander, the experts keep trying to bring it up on charges.
So that soft versus hard LDL, the soft or the hard one, that's the LDL particle. That's the LDL particle test. That's how you tell what the different LDLs are, just to give you some reference point. So I can't say it enough, sugar and grains are what's gonna cause the bad LDL. That's what's gonna cause the plaquing on the artery wall. So as much as you don't wanna get off sugar, as much as you don't wanna get off grains, I highly recommend that you minimize those. We do, in our office, we do 30-day challenges where because these are hard to get off of, really hard to get off of, and you're addicted to them whether you like it or not. But we do 30-day challenges where we will teach you how to get your body off of it in 30 days. Because if you feel like you have a sugar addiction, you've just trained your taste buds to like it. So over time, you can train it to do something different. So anybody who's been on a 30-day challenge that had a really good experience, that's willing to say? Okay. So one had good, one was bad? Okay, let's start with, who was on a 30-day challenge? Okay, how many people, let's do it this way. How many people found getting off sugar hard? Okay, Steve, what was the hardest part? You're still in process, okay. It's just.
Mainly,
Right. The cravings, okay. Yeah. So I'd love to sit down with you and go, okay, what are you craving? And then we look at what we could add, like chocolate. I don't know if that's one of your cravings, but there are actually some great chocolates that are low in sugar that you could eat. So you just have to have the right stuff around in your house and get the wrong stuff out so that you can't go and reach for the bad stuff. That's my personal opinion.
No, I think you're right. There's times that I get on things.
Looked up what?
Specialty cookies.
Okay. Yeah.
By your standards, it's like
Is that what you, and that's what you were eating?
yeah. So if you break that down to one bite of something, you can eat stuff.
Yeah, so exactly. So there are two ways you can go about it. You can just say, okay, I've had people go, I drink 10 sodas a day. Okay, now I'm gonna only drink 5. That would be a huge improvement. That would be gigantic, but then you can't stay there. You gotta keep going down because, but that's one way to do it. I'm kind of like, draw a line in the sand. Let me just let me just do it and I'll be done with it. I'll go through the pain of it kind of person. If you're like, that's the other approach. Is that's why I love the 30-day challenge, because I just say, okay, next 30 days I won't do sugar. Now, I will tell you, sugar is in everything. You start reading labels, it's everywhere. It's in your tomato sauce, in your ketchup, and you go out, I don't even know if you can eat at a restaurant where they don't put sugar in something. It's in everything. So it's a daunting task, but a necessary one, especially if you want your heart to be healthy.
You recommended a substitute that I like to do. A granny apple slice with some almond butter.
Yeah. Yeah. So like at nighttime, we recommend that. I've even had people take a big scoop of cashew butter, raw cashew butter, and just eat it just to curb that particular craving. So yeah. So there's ways to do it. Go ahead.
I use a product called stevia, like when I make lemonade.
Great.
It's not a synthetic sugar. So
yeah, and stevia is great. It's some people don't respond to the taste of it well.
I find that it used too much. It's like
I agree. Okay, good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and people do use it too much, and then it's like tastes kind of fake and not. Yeah. So if you're somebody that's sitting there worried about your heart health, and or you're on a statin or you're on a high blood pressure medication, I really recommend that you think about, how do I get off sugar? That to me is the first step. Once you feel like you have a good handle on that, then you got to look at, how do I get off grains? Okay, so that would be the second step. Once you feel like you have a great handle on that, then we want to start looking at toxins and things that might be stressing the liver out as well. So, but those are the kind of the 3-step process. But again, we're not going to solve the problem, the heart disease problem, until we get the sugar out. We've got to get the sugar out. And you can now sort of connect the dots and see why we're not solving the heart disease problem. We just are putting everybody on medication and taking them off all the trans fat, which is great, but we're not addressing the sugar issue. So
if you're on statin, can you just stop taking it, or is that?
That's a great question. So I wouldn't do it that way. I would make sure that I'm doing all the other things because again, you want to address why your body is raising the cholesterol. So if you just get off and you're like, I'm going to start eating butter, that's what she said to do, that would not be the smart way to do it. I would go 90 days off of sugar, off of grains, off of trans fats, and adding in about 30% of your diet saturated fat. And then I would start to slowly taper down. And then I would have cholesterol checks along the way. I would have I'd be drawing blood and making sure that I'm not putting off too far. So that would be the logical way I would go about it. So yeah.
So you're saying lower the grain. So you're saying do a gluten-free diet?
So you can do gluten-free if you want, but I'm saying take all the grains away. If you really want to go after it, that's all grains. I mean, all pastas, all breads, that's everything. So yeah, I mean, brown rice, white rice is all produces sugar when it gets into your body. So romaine lettuce. Why, of course. Romaine lettuce. Have you ever seen romaine lettuce? It's awesome. It's crunchy. It can fold in half. You can wrap things up in it. I'm gonna work with you. I know. They're going grain free in New York too. I know they are. So we will work on it. So. Yeah. Ooh, I like a good challenge.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, so start with sugar first. That's easy? Okay, if you got off sugar, then you go to grains. So, okay, so let's talk about what you should be adding in. Because I mean, I'm happy to work with you personally, one-on-one. I personally think you should be coached by somebody if this is a totally obscure concept. Just like you hear, there are some things that you can do that will make your journey grain-free and sugar-free much easier. And if you got anybody that's been on a 30-day grain-free, sugar-free diet, feel free to speak out. But I would say what I would say maybe 80 to 90% of the time, I see people drag their heels, and then they get to a point where they're like, okay, I want the good health better, than I want this piece of bread. So I'd rather have the good health, so I'm okay, I'm gonna try it. And they get on it, sometimes I'll tell people, give me 2 weeks. And they get on it, and they start, or they get off the grains and the sugar, and within 3 days, I promise you, people come in to me and they're like, oh my God, I'm not hungry, my energy's up, I'm sleeping better, my mental clarity's better. Like, it's crazy. And then your brain has to decide which you want better. Which do you want more? Do you want the sandwich and the pasta, or do you want the better energy? It can often come down to that. Would anybody been on a 30-day that would agree with that? Yeah. Galen, you did your first 30 days back in February. What did you notice?
I'm on 7 weeks now, and from right after your seminar that day, I went home, stopped sugars, stopped breads, pastas, everything.
Yeah.
And I just found an easy transition for me because, like you said, I looked at it more as a lifestyle change than a diet. And with my diabetes and everything, it just hit home, and that was the way to go.
Yeah. And your energy's gone up.
Yes.
And the other thing is, Galen lost weight for the first time in
my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was in here, she weighed herself after going 30 days, she didn't want to weigh herself, and then she weighed herself in here, and she lost weight. She'd never been able to do that before. So that's pretty cool. So give it a whirl. I promise you won't be. And if you're not happy and you're feeling deprived, you can come in and yell at me. I'm okay with that as long as we're moving forward. Okay, so I'm going to go real quickly through nutrients that you do need, and you may want to write some of these down. So what does your heart absolutely need to have? I pretty much told you what it needs to have out. Now I want you to know what it needs to have in. So first thing, the absolute most well-researched nutrient out there when it comes to heart health is omega-3 fish oils. Our body does not produce omega-3. And we need to have a good ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. So your ratio is really, really, really important. So if you don't know what your ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is, this is one of the things that we are now testing. It's very easy to test. You do a pinprick. It's called a blood spot test. We put the 3 things of your blood from your finger on a like a sheet of paper, put it in an envelope, we send it out, and it'll tell me exactly what your omega levels are. It'll tell me your ratio, it'll tell me if you're low, it'll tell me if you're high, and then we can customize an omega vitamin for you. So if you're not doing that, please come talk to me, because I think it's really important that in my opinion, every single person should be on an omega-3. And you cannot eat enough fish. That's the question I get a lot. Can I eat a ton of fish? Yeah. For omega-3s, what can you eat instead of fish for omega-3? So I do know that there are some oils that you can take. Let me find out for you. Yeah. Okay, so we got to find a solution. Let me find out. So, and I want to say walnuts, but I want to know real specifically.
I think that linseed oil.
Yeah, it's a seed. Like I'm thinking nuts or seeds. Can you have nuts? Okay, we'll find out. Flaxseed, chia seed. So those are come-in oils. You can get them, put them in your smoothies in the morning. So yeah, that'd be good. Great question. So if you're not on an omega oil, get on one. If you want to know really clearly what kind you should be on, you want to do the blood spot, come talk to us. One thing to know is that when they go to pull the omega-3s from fish, it's not always clean. Sometimes it's toxic fish. So there are only a few handful of brands that I feel comfortable recommending to you. Nordic Naturals is one. You can get that at Whole Foods. I had Nordic Naturals in here for a very long time. I thought it was one of the purest. Maximize Living just put a higher quality one, in my opinion. And so we have that one available. It's got many of the Nordic Naturals have about 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams. The Maximize Living one has over 2,700 milligrams of omega oil. So I'm presently in love with the one I have. Beth is enlightened me on another one. I got to do my research on it before I get there. So But you need to be on an omega oil. If you ever take an omega oil and you burp it up, it's rancid. It's not a good oil. So that's a really clean way. You should not burp up your fish oil. If you do, if you didn't get good quality. And the Costco brand, everybody wants to know about the Costco brand. It is not good oil. Okay, hemp seed and hemp oil. So that would also be, okay, great, thank you. It's awesome. Okay, vitamin D. Absolutely have to have vitamin D. It is one of the main reasons that people are getting cancer, not main, but one of the reasons people are getting cancer is we're extremely low in vitamin D. Hold on one second, we just went through that. Let me tell you the best way to get vitamin D is get out in the sun, but you want your skin exposed. You don't go completely naked, but you want some skin exposed in the sun at about noon, 1 o'clock. And you want to be out there for an hour. You don't want a hat. You don't want sunscreen. Like, you want to be out there at the high point of the day. Okay? If that totally freaks you out, then, or you're like me, I'm in here like today. Did I leave? Did I go outside? I didn't go outside today. Oh, God. Okay, so I didn't go. Okay, I went outside one time. Okay, but if you're inside all day, you got to, in my opinion, you got to take a vitamin D supplement. You'll never get enough vitamin D. So I love ours. I only carry vitamins I love. I'll never carry a vitamin I don't love. You want at least 5,000 IUs. It needs to be from a food-based source, and it needs to be put with probiotics. When you put a vitamin D with probiotics, you increase the absorption into your bloodstream. So you want to put those together. Okay. The next thing that your heart needs is magnesium. The best way to get magnesium is eat as many green things as you possibly can, and eat them raw. Spinach, kale, celery, avocado. What did you say? Jello? Not Jello. That's like the guy who brought. We had a guy who brought the Rice Krispie treats to the.
You found emotional.
I know, and he's trying so hard. I had a guy that came to our event in February, and he came to February first, and he heard me say you want to have the least amount of ingredients in your food as possible. So he's trying to make changes. Bless his heart. He came to recipe night where everybody brings something, and he brought Rice Krispie treats, which I noticed, by the way, you all ate. It was after he said that. When I went to go show you the GMO video, I went back there and I was like, we gotta get rid of these. And they were all gone. I'm sure there were some new people that were like, this place is amazing. This is so Jello is green. I don't want it to be taken wrong. I mean, it didn't only have 3 ingredients. He was like butter, marshmallows, and Rice Krispies. He followed that, right? So magnesium. You want to make sure that you're getting magnesium. Again, I like our products. Again, I did the homework for you. Here's a phenomenal video just so you can see the connection. This one's pretty quick between vitamin D and heart disease.
Big headline about health from a study of almost 1 million people. Today, a new report says you can cut your risk of cancer and heart disease by paying closer attention to a vitamin, vitamin D. Here's ABC's Mark Scavacampo.
It's a spring ritual, getting reacquainted with the sun, and a critical one too. The major new study of nearly 1 million people finds the lower your vitamin D levels, the higher your risk for certain diseases, including a 35% increased risk of death from heart disease and a 14% increase in death from cancer. Vitamin D not only helps block a host of major illnesses, it can boost your heart and even strengthen your bones. This while an estimated 2/3 of the population isn't getting enough.
So just how do you raise your vitamin D levels? Well, for one thing, spend more time outdoors. Doctors recommend about 1 hour of time in the sun per week, and they say to expose as much skin as possible.
Of course, experts say you have to take precautions not to get too much sun, and they point to the vitamin D you can get by eating more salmon, mushrooms, and fortified dairy. For middle-aged and older women, vitamin D3 supplements can help too.
Food sources are really limited, so it's best for most people to take a supplement.
But this spring, experts say the best thing to do is get outside and soak up some sun.
Now, that 1 hour of recommended sun time can be spread out over the entire week, and doctors say that amount, just a few minutes each day, generally won't increase your risk of skin cancer, Diane, or other problems that come with too much sun exposure.
And again, you can use some protection.
You absolutely can.
All right, Mara.
So I've heard 1 hour every day. They're saying an hour a week. So if you are on a statin or you are on blood pressure medication, there are 2 vitamins you absolutely need to take because those 2 medications will lower. One is vitamin D and one is CoQ10. So CoQ10, if you're on a statin or you're taking a blood pressure medication, your CoQ10 levels will be lowered because it blocks the enzyme in the liver that makes CoQ10. So you won't make it. So. That's a great question. Let me find out exactly for you. That's a great question. So, and then vitamin D again, I can't say enough. So what we've done is if you are on some kind of medication or you are currently worried about your heart health, I put together my favorite heart things that I think everybody nutrients should be taking. It's got a fish oil, it's got a vitamin D, it's got this product called Daily Defense, which lowers inflammation in your body. And what else? Oh, CoQ10. Put those 3 things or 4 vitamins together. If you are wanting to strengthen your heart, get nutrients to it, I recommend that you get on those. You can try it for about 60 days, and then let me know if you get on it because I want to work with you to make sure that we're pointing you in a good direction. So, but those would be the 4 that I would recommend if you're taking any medication or you're worried about your heart or if you have high cholesterol or you have high blood pressure, that's what you want to get on. So there are, to answer your question, there are some natural things that you can do to break those plaques off, the arthrosclerosis, the grit stuff that I got pulled out of the video. So pomegranates have been found to reverse the carotid artery, plaque in the carotid artery, up to 29%. Up to 29 within a year. That's awesome. And how great are pomegranates? How much are you going to eat? I don't know. It's a great question, but just start eating them. So, arginine is found in eggs and really, really helpful for reversing or taking the plaque off the side of the walls. I personally have around 3 to 5 eggs a day, every day, and my cholesterol is completely normal. So, that's what I have to have. You don't have to, but I think, yeah, I think the arginine, yeah, the good stuff is in the yolks. Yeah. Do you not like the yolk? Yeah, well, there you go. That's one way to do it. So, garlic has also been known, high amounts of garlic, to pull that plaque out. So, start cooking with garlic. We don't care if you smell. In fact, I encourage it. Nothing would delight me more that if everybody started coming in smelling like garlic over the next 2 weeks, that would be exciting. But try to get as much garlic in your diet. And then this is really interesting, B complex. I'm still doing some research on it, but I wanted to include it. Showed that it reversed the plaque buildup in arteries when taking a full range of B vitamins. The B complex is going to have all the B vitamins in it. It's not just going to have B6 and B12, it's going to have everything. So again, if you're concerned about your heart, you may look at adding in a B complex. So, yep. Again, things you want to avoid: medications. I'm not going to go into this. I think I've already talked about it enough. And grains and wheat. If you're not really convinced about wheat yet, let me tell you one thing that happens with wheat is that if it's not organic, what happens is before they harvest the wheat, they spray it with Roundup. And the Roundup, the reason they do that is it causes the seeds to fall onto the earth, and the farmer doesn't have to keep buying more seeds. It saves him or her money. So and you can look that up, and in Roundup, of course, Roundup is harmful, but there is a chemical in there called glyphosate. You know that one, Beth? glycophosphate, and it is what they're now linking to a whole bunch of cancers. So if you're gonna eat wheat, I plead, I ask, I cannot tell you enough, if you want to eat wheat, you gotta eat it organic. You have to eat it organic. You don't want that junk in you, okay? So, and then I wanna finish with a couple of other really interesting studies. So, one thing that we know, and this is crazy too, is that I just spent a little over an hour and a half talking about plaquing on your arteries. Well, guess what? They did the largest study ever done on heart attacks, and they found that only 41% of heart attacks are possibly due to this plaquing. That the other 59 was caused by something else. So there's a great new study out done. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. Dr. Thomas Cowan is his name. He's an MD. You can type in stress and heart attacks. He's on Mercola's website. And actually, if you show it while I mute it, he showed that one of the reasons that women between 37 and 47 are getting more heart attacks is because we're more stressed. And the reason we're more stressed is because more of us are trying to do a work-life balance. So what he did is he went and he looked at this group of women, and he found that when you're stressed, you're firing your sympathetic nervous system all the time. And you're causing the heart to keep beating and beating and beating. I'll explain what you guys can just watch the video as I'm talking. But and so that overstimulation, they call it the sympathetic nervous system. When it overstimulates your heart can't relax, and it leads you to a heart attack. So one of the new things they're saying is that you've got to have a balance between your sympathetic, the one that speeds you up, and your parasympathetic, the one that slows you down. He then went on to look in an angiogram at where they saw pinching of the arteries, this plaque building, and he found that what the body does, because it's so ridiculously smart, is that when there's a blockage in one area, it creates collateral blood vessels that work around that block and make sure that there's enough blood that gets to the heart and nourishes the heart. So this is like brand new. The study was December 2014. He's the only person that's come out with it. But the new theory is that it has more to do with keeping your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system in balance. Okay, does that make sense? Did I lose anybody on that? So how do you keep your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system in balance? 4-7-8 breathing is fantastic. Meditation is fantastic. When you get adjusted, every single time you get adjusted in my office, every single time we take pressure off your nerves, we are balancing those two systems out. So to me, you guys hear me say this all the time, that when we adjust you, it's like an eraser for your stress. But absolutely, it is an eraser for your stress. And some of the research that they've done on men is that they're finding, this is the one, that men who lost 3 centimeters in height over the course of their life were 60% more likely to die of heart or lung disease. So why is that? As our head is coming down, we're like, and then this is, even before, this was 2006, so that was partly before the smartphone was invented. But as we're doing this all day, what we're doing is we're causing nerves that go to the heart and lungs to get compressed. And when the brain can't get information to the heart and lungs, then over time they start to break down. So know that when you're getting adjusted, and this is again why I obsess on getting you guys the curves in your neck, getting pressure off your brainstem. I'm going to show you a phenomenal study here on that. That it's not just to make you look good, it's not just to make you feel good. I want both of those things for you, but I want to make sure that 10 years from now that I can look you in the eye and know that you're healthier than you are now. And if all I do is give you food ideas and I don't correct these curves with you and I don't get your body back to how it was designed to be, you're cutting off information that the brain can't get to these organs, and these organs aren't going to repair. And when we're dealing, the study on the women from 37 to 47 is near and dear to my heart because I'm 45, and I know plenty of friends that are uber stressed and trying to do both work life and parenting together, and it's hard. And those are the women that are the most prone to heart attack right now because they're just fire, that sympathetic nervous system. So, and then the last thing I'll show you is that the one of the most popular studies and really well done study on blood pressure showed that when you have an atlas, that's this bone right up here, when your atlas is out of alignment, putting pressure on your brainstem, that it causes your blood pressure to go up. And so they'll explain the study here in a moment, but when they got pressure off of that brainstem, then the blood pressure went down, and they all of a sudden started realizing, like, oh my gosh, maybe chiropractic is a solution for high blood pressure. This is why when you come into my office, that bone I measure in how many different directions. We measure it this way, we measure it that way, we measure it. It's the most measured bone in here. You trust me that I have a handle on your atlas. I know exactly where it is. I know exactly what kind of pressure is going on your brainstem, because if I don't do my job getting the pressure off, it can lead to high blood pressure. So this is a really good article. You want to get that one, or a little clip that will explain it to you.
GMA on call. Millions of Americans take medication to lower their blood pressure, but new research suggests there may be a better solution. The idea is that some people may be able to toss their pills and visit a chiropractor instead. So how would it work? And is this method right for everyone? 1 in 3 adults suffer from high blood pressure. Nobody can say for sure what makes it rise, but now a new medical study is cautiously suggesting an unusual way to bring it down. Realign the spine.
When the spine is misaligned, it can affect all types of things, all types of diseases, conditions.
The idea is that the C1 vertebra, located at the top of the spine, operates like a fuse box in the body. When twisted, it can pinch arteries and nerves at the base of the neck, not only causing discomfort, but affecting blood flow too. Denise Neiman suffered from neck pain.
Their upper body's off to the left 2 degrees. And
X-ray showed her C1 out of alignment. A special chiropractic adjustment lowered the pain and her blood pressure at the same time.
My blood pressure dropped tremendously.
Could there be a connection?
We designed a double-blind study to really look and see if, in fact, this procedure was affecting blood pressure.
25 patients got the special adjustment, 25 others a fake one. The ones who got the real thing saw their blood pressure drop an average of 17 points, a dip that usually takes 2 blood pressure medications to achieve.
So, pretty significant.
But before you run out and get your neck adjusted, you should know that only a handful of chiropractors are qualified to do this kind of thing. The study is still being reviewed, and though blood pressure was still down 8 weeks later, nobody can say for sure how long the adjustments will last. And I want to thank our fabulous Chicago station, WLS, for all their help on this story. Now, for more on the possible connection between your spine and your blood pressure, our medical editor, Dr. Tim Johnson, joins us now from Boston. So, Tim, what do you think of this study?
Well, it's obviously very intriguing, the idea that a simple manipulation of the neck might result in a very significant lowering of blood pressure. There are obvious limitations to the study. Only 50 patients, only 25 treated, only 8-week follow-up, a very special kind of chiropractor training required, but it certainly is intriguing and deserves further study, and in fact, a larger study is now underway.
And so tell us how, in theory, how does this work, realigning the neck, the spine?
Well, the truth is we really don't know, but that vertebra at the top of the neck is in a very critical area where the brain stem, the lower part of the brain, is involved with the regulation of blood pressure. So it's theoretically imaginable that changing the anatomy of that area might have some effect on the regulation of blood pressure.
So people at home are, starting to feel around the back of their neck right now saying, so how do you know if it's in alignment?
Well, aside from having pain that might bring you to a doctor or to a chiropractor, you really wouldn't know unless you get an x-ray. And so the intriguing question with further study that verifies that this might be a possibility will be, how do we suggest which people go and get their necks x-rayed and maybe have this kind of manipulation? There's a lot to sort out, but I'm telling you, the medical world will pay attention to this because of the very significant drop in blood pressure. And eventually, I think we'll sort out which people should go and have their next x-ray.
Well, that's huge, because that's automatically when I heard about this yesterday. My mother has battled with high blood pressure, and I know that she has a little bit of curvature in the spine and wanting to know, of course, she's 84. So you have to know if this is right for each particular person. And also, how long does it actually last? Or you can just stop the pills, or do you have to do it ever so often?
See, we don't know that. These people had just one manipulation, and 8 weeks later, their pressure was still down. How long that will last is what will be required for further study. So a lot of unanswered questions, but I'm telling you, this catches our attention because of the significant drop in blood pressure. It absolutely deserves more study.
And it's helpful. Now you can go to your doctor, as you always say, make sure you check with your family doctor and ask them about this and see what's right for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider the chiropractor to become now the primary care doctor for people with high blood pressure.
Right.
They should absolutely go to their own doctor. But in talking with their doctor, if they're having some neck problems, they might want to entertain the idea of looking at this, especially when we get more data to sort it out.
All right, Tim, thanks for the house call this morning. Certainly do appreciate it. Have a good day.
I think that was a pretty painful interview for that guy to do. I like the one part I'd like to point out is he said the simple adjustment. So I've been in practice for 19 years. I figured out the other day that I've probably delivered about 400,000 adjustments. And I am still working on perfecting my Atlas adjustment. I went to Nashville in December because I knew somebody who knew more than me. And I was like, okay, I wonder what that person's doing. So I thought that was pretty intriguing. But you know, wouldn't it be beautiful if we could all marry our ideas together and we could have medical doctors and chiropractors and naturopaths and everybody talking together? That would be awesome. But I think that guy had a little bit, you could just see he was hesitant to give people free reign to go see us. So I want to finish up with this. What I'm doing now is putting these checklists together for you guys at every single event we do. And unlike a list of like, hey, this is what you know, just pick something on here and do it, I want you to understand that there's an order in which you should be doing it. So we did this. If you did not get our Detox Your Life protocol that we gave out a couple weeks ago at our community dinner, let us know. We want you to get that. I created a checklist that was like, this is how you go about detoxing, pulling the toxins out of your life. So with heart health, you now know what numbers you're supposed to be looking for. So if you have your tests at home, go home, calculate these numbers. If you're a patient of mine, come talk to me. I want to work with you on these numbers, okay? So that would be the first thing. I am working on getting vitamin D levels read in here. We do have a sign up front. Just if you want to know more about vitamin D or tell me on your next visit, I will make sure that you get in on that I'm rolling that out in the next couple of weeks. I just want to find the cheapest place for you guys to get that done, okay? If you haven't done a urine test or the blood spot test for the omega oil to find out your omega balance, please, I think we have a sign up front on it. They're called, in our office, we refer to them as biomarkers. So all you have to do is ask my staff, say, I want to know more about getting a biomarker test. What these tests are so awesome because when you step into your medical doctor's office, they read disease. And what over here is health, but there's this big gray area that tells us what direction you're going. And that's what these functional tests will do, is tell me what direction you're doing, where you're going in. The next step is you have to know what's going on with that atlas. You've got to know how much curve you have in your neck. If you're a patient of mine and you have no idea what's going on in your atlas, let me show you on your next visit. I have everybody's x-ray up. When I'm doing the arthrostim on you, I am working on realigning that atlas. So if you're confused in any way, shape, or form, please come talk to me. It's really important that you know where your atlas is at. If you're not a patient of mine, please, tonight we lower all of our new patient fees. So normally it's $257 for me to do a full 5 essential workup on you. If you're not a patient, you want a customized approach, you want to know what's going on with that atlas, we cut that in half tonight. So you just need to let Dr. Carol know, and she'll set you that appointment up. So, so you can do that. Then once you've gotten all your, then there's another piece that we've added in called the lifestyle risk questionnaire. How many people, just out of curiosity, have filled this one out? Okay, so a lot of people haven't. This is an online test. It's 100 questions. You answer the questions, they send me a report, and it tells me what areas we need to work on. Do we need to work on your digestion? Do we need to work on inflammation? Do we need to work on detoxification? Just to give you an example. If you haven't filled that out, please, if you are currently a patient of mine, please, please, please fill this out. I take these very seriously. I'm constantly trying to figure out how to move each one of you to that next level, and this is really helpful for me. If you are not a patient of mine, if you decide to come in and have me do your neck x-ray, we'll actually do all x-rays on you and do a complete nutritional analysis. We will do this on you as well, so that we can customize your nutrition for you.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Is that an online questionnaire?
Yep.
You don't show the URL.
You have to tell Jessica, and she will send you a link.
Oh, okay.
So good point. You tell Jessica, she'll write down your email, and she'll send you a link. Okay. Once you've done that, now we've got a game plan. We know where we're going. You got to get the pressure off your brainstem. It makes no sense to lower your stress, take medication if you don't know what's going on in that atlas. You got to know what's going on in that atlas. We got to work on your posture. Once you've done that, now you go and you take your grains out, you take your sugar out. Once you do that, then you go and look at your fats. So these are steps that you take. What some of you are going to do is you're going to go home and go, okay, I can do the 4-7-8 breathing. I'll start that first. And that is the slow path to health. And you can still die of a heart attack next week. So I like results fast. I am impatient. I am competitive. I want you to be the healthiest group of people on the planet. I don't want you taking the slow path. So start going down this list and make sure that you're getting each one of those. And then where'd I go from there? Okay, so then you're gonna take the fats out. If you have a heart condition right now, if you're taking medication, get the bundle tonight. It's lower, it's like you save like $20, $30 tonight. It'll be here all week, but you'll pay more if you get it on another time. All of our products, every event we ever do, our products are 10% off. So that's, if you ever wanted the most discounted time to get products in our office, it's at our events. So everything's 10% off. And then you're gonna move your body. So we do an exercise class on Saturday morning at 7:45. It is called surge training. For 15 minutes, we put you through a pretty rigorous exercise. And who's been to it, just out of curiosity? Okay, Bill is my steady Eddie. Yes. So for 15 minutes, we push you. And the idea is to start to get some, again, remove the plaque, get some of this stuff, and get growth hormone surging through you. There's a ton of benefits, and believe it or not, you only have to do it for 15 minutes, I promise you. And then you're gonna remove the toxic foods, and then you're gonna stop stressing. Now, if you can do all those things at the same time, fantastic. If you can't, please take this home, go step by step by step. I'm gonna finish this up. I am here to help you. Please don't leave overwhelmed. Please don't leave discouraged. Please put yourself in action. And then the other step I ask is that as you're moving in more to better health, grab a few people with you. Inspire the people around you. I hope you learned a lot tonight, and I hope that tomorrow you go talk to people about it. I am trying to start a wave of people actually thinking about their health. Who gets our emails, by the way? Did I ask this earlier? Make sure you're on my email list. I put out really well thought out ideas that you can be implementing. I have started getting into companies. We have 7 different companies we're going to speak to in the next 6 weeks. I'm trying to get this information to people. So as you learn it, as you implement it, pay it forward and get it moving so that we can, hopefully be all sitting here 10 years from now and go, oh my God, look, heart disease is going down, cancer is going down, people are getting healthier. I've got avocado oil in my organic potato chips. Like, that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. So, with that, have a great night, and I'll stay around for questions. Yeah. They don't. It's a functional test. So I'm happy to show you exactly what's in it, and you can take it to them. But It's a urine test and it's a blood spot test. So, yeah. I haven't had
They've
one
been
yet.
hounding me because I need to get in and get my blood test
Yeah.
done. I was just curious if that's something they could add to my.
Yeah,
list of
I'll
stuff
show
to
you
do.
the list and you can look and see. Yeah, I haven't had anybody do it yet, so, but yeah. Oh, if